Okay, chapter 14. We are going to be discussing cost allocation, customer profitability analysis, and also looking at the sales variance analysis. We have several learning objectives. The first one is to be able to discuss why a company's revenues and cost differ across customers. Number two, be able to identify the importance of customer profitability profiles. And we're going to see how we put those together in this chapter. Number three, understand the cost hierarchy-based operating income statement. We will also see how to put one of those together here in chapter 14. We will be able to understand the criteria to guide our cost allocation decisions. We will discuss decisions faced when collecting and allocating indirect costs to customers. And we will learn how to subdivide the sales volume variance into the sales mix variance and the sales quantity variance. And then we will also see how to take that sales quantity variance and subdivide it further into the market share variance and the market size variance. Alright, so let's first look at our points related to customer profitability analysis. Customer profitability analysis is the reporting and assessment or analysis of revenues earned from customers and the cost incurred to earn those revenues. The analysis reveals why differences exist in the operating income earned from different customers. So basically what we're going to be doing is breaking out our revenue stream by customer, and then also taking cost related to servicing those customers and breaking those out by customer. Okay, so we know cost of goods sold is one thing, but the operating expenses related to actually operating and servicing those customers is a whole different ballgame, and you're going to see that in more detail in chapter 14. Alright, so this information is used to ensure that customers with large contributions to our overall operating income receive a high level of attention from the company. Alright, so we need to take very good care of those very good customers because they are the one taking care of our bottom line compared to those with lower or lost contributions possibly to operating income who use up a lot of our resources, and we do not get a return for those resources of ours that they're using up. And we're going to see that in a very good example here in chapter 14. So customer revenues, again, this is part of what we can separate out by customer. So two variables can be identified to explain our revenue differences across customers. First of all, it's going to be related to the quantity purchased by those customers, or the dollar amount we have sold to them. Alright, so the number of units that we sell to them, of course, is an underlying component of the total revenues per customer. And then second is how much they're paying for those. Alright, are we giving them any discount off of a selling price? So a price discount also affects the revenues. So what are we selling these units for our customers? What's the dollar amount that they are paying? Alright, so price discounting is the reduction of selling prices in order to encourage increases in customer purchases. Now, I will say that this happens quite a bit in industry. Many times there are companies that publish annual pricing for their customers, and then based on the relationship and the potential of the customer and past historical purchases and some other items, some customers are offered greater discounts off of that main price than others. So price discounting is going to affect our total amount of revenues, and we can break this down by customer. Price discounts, again, it's a lower sales price, and we grant those as a trade-off for larger sales volumes. So we want to encourage those customers to buy more, so we give them a lower selling price. Discounts need to be tracked by customer and salesperson. So hopefully, depending on where you guys end up in your career, if you are working for someone who has units that we sell directly to the customers, whether those customers be wholesale or retail, hopefully your AIS system and your accounting softwares are tracking by customer and also by salesperson the amount of discount that's being granted to these individuals, or these individual customer accounts. Price discounts need to be monitored in order to help improve customer profitability, but we also need to make sure that the discounts are not illegal. Alright, so we have a couple of different things here. We're going to see these mentioned in another chapter, but I want to make sure that you are very well aware of them. Alright, so price discrimination is the practice of charging different customers different prices for the same product or service. There are legal implications that can pop up when this comes into play. Peak load pricing is the practice of charging a higher price for the same product or service when demand approaches the physical limit of the capacity to produce that product or service. Think about the hotel industry and airline industries. International pricing. Prices that we charge in different countries vary much more than the cost of delivering the product to each country. And we'll talk a little bit more in a later chapter in regards to more things related to international points that need to be made. There are also some laws out there in regards to antitrust, and price discrimination is illegal if the intent is to lessen or prevent competition. There's actually a movie out there. I can't think of the title right now. I may make a note about it later, but it's basically about Archer Daniels Midland, and it's a very interesting movie, and it's got a lot to do with price discrimination and the FBI getting involved to investigate and prosecute. Also, predatory pricing occurs when a company deliberately prices below its cost in an effort to drive competitors out of the market and restrict supply, and then raises the pricing rather than enlarge demand. And we have some of this going on around the world on a daily basis. Dumping occurs when a non-U.S. company sells a product in the United States at a price below the market value in the country where it is produced. So they're dumping these items in the U.S. at a low selling price. And this lower price materially injures or threatens to materially injure an industry in the United States. And we have heard about this recently in the last couple of years, definitely in regards to the solar industry. Collusive pricing occurs when companies in an industry conspire in their pricing and production decisions to achieve a price above the competitive price and so restrain trade. This collusive pricing also comes up in that movie that I mentioned about Archer Daniels Midland. Alright, so customer revenues. Let's first look at customer revenue analysis, and then we'll look into customer cost analysis. We've got several different images or illustrations in Chapter 14 that we do need to take a peek at here in this presentation. Again, generally two variables will explain revenue differences across customers. Again, it's the quantity or the number of units actually purchased, and then the magnitude of the price discounting that they are offered, and of course take it. Tracking price discounts by customer and by salesperson helps to improve customer profitability. Again, if we are offering a massive discount to a customer, we are doing that to encourage them to buy more, and if they don't increase over time the amount that they're purchasing, then we are not really getting our end of the deal there. So maybe we need to retract some of that discount that they have been given. Alright, so let's take a look at the information from Chapter 14 in the text. Here what we have is the data for the Pro Value division of Astel Computers. And Astel sells and distributes Pro Value through two different channels. They've got their wholesalers, and then they also sell to their direct sales to business customers. Alright, so here we are going to be looking at some of the data from some of their wholesale customers. Alright, now each unit that we sell, you can see we have a list price of $1,100, but based on underlying information, we will have granted these specific customers, A, B, G, and J, different discounts. Alright, so customer A is getting $100 off, where customer B is getting $50 off, G is getting $150 off, and J isn't getting any discount whatsoever. Alright, so if you take the discount off of the list price, you get their actual selling price per unit, which is what we would be billing them for. $1,000 for customer A, $1,050 for customer B, $950 for customer G, and $1,100 or full price for customer J. Now, of course, how many units they purchase times the selling price equals the dollar amount of revenues. So $30 million worth of revenues is coming from customer A. $26,250,000 is coming from customer B. Only $4.75 million is coming from G, and only $4.4 million is coming from J. Now I want you guys to notice something here. The customer who's got the largest discount, or the lowest selling price per unit after that discount has been deducted, does not have the largest dollar amount of revenues. The largest dollar amount of revenues is actually being paid by the customer who's getting the third lowest dollar amount per unit. Alright? So if you wanted to look at that visually, I've gone in here and put it in another way for you guys to just look at it. Again, the customer with the lowest selling price per unit does not have the largest dollar amount in sales. It's actually third place there. The one who's paying $1,000 each has our highest sales, $1,050 each, next highest sales, and the one with no discount whatsoever is the lowest dollar amount in revenues. Alright, so here is the data from the chapter showing us what the income statement would show just for these four customers totaled up together. Okay, we're ignoring for right now all their other customers, whether it be direct customers or their other wholesalers, and just looking at the data. Actually, this is for all the customers. So we've got $150 million in total revenues. This does include the other customers besides the 4 that we've just looked at. Sorry about that. There's our total revenues. The cost of goods sold is stated in the book at $680. Okay, so regardless of what we're selling these for per unit, the cost of goods sold is going to be the same per unit. Alright, so for 150,000 units being sold, with our average price actually working out to $1,000, our cost of goods sold is 150,000 units at the cost of goods sold per unit of $680. And then from there, of course, we would have all those operating costs that are totaled up. So we've got research and development, we've got design cost of products and processes, we have our marketing and admin cost, we have distribution cost, and we have customer service related cost. Well, what we're going to be looking at is, in regards to these operating costs, what are we having to utilize or incur cost-wise to service these customers? And we are going to find a way to divvy up these costs on a per customer basis so that we can analyze profitability per customer above and beyond just gross margin. Okay, just deducting cost of goods sold is going to give us that gross margin. Well, we want to go farther. We want to keep looking. Okay, so let's now go and discuss how the cost can be analyzed. So customer cost hierarchy categorizes cost related to our customers into different cost pools on the basis of different things. Alright, so we can look at the types of drivers of the cost that we incur to service our customers. We are going to come up with a cost allocation basis, and then we can also consider degrees of difficulty in determining cause and effect or benefits received relationships. Alright, so when it comes to servicing the customers, what kind of cost are we incurring, and then how can we divvy those costs up on a per customer basis? The second aspect of customer profitability is the customer cost analysis. We will highlight again information that's covered in Chapter 5 regarding cost hierarchy, which you guys should have been introduced to this kind of topic back in your cost accounting class. If you need to, pause the video, go back, flip through Chapter 5 and take another look at those items. But the customer cost hierarchy categorizes costs related to customers into different cost pools on the basis of different types of cost drivers or cost allocation basis, or different degrees of difficulty in determining a cause and effect or benefits received relationship. Alright, let's look at the 5 different categories. We have cause and effect variables that can be identified that cause resources to be consumed. Okay, so when we talk about resources to be consumed, are we not talking about expenses and costs that are being incurred in order to provide something to someone? Alright, so cause and effect. We've got costs and expenses being incurred. What caused us to incur those costs and expenses? Based on what caused them, then let's allocate that cost based on that driver. Alright, benefits received. Who are the beneficiaries of the outputs of the cost object? Then we can charge them with the cost in proportion to the benefits they actually received. Alright, so we've got 5 categories here. Number 1 is the customer output unit level cost. Again, I repeat, customer output unit level cost. These are done on a per unit basis. Many times what we're talking about here is product handling cost. Customer batch level cost are cost per customer order, for example, or per a delivery. Okay, so we're going to take several orders, put them together in a batch, and process them, or several orders in a batch and deliver them. Alright, so we're going to categorize these costs by these different groupings, and then we're going to track the number of batches per customer, and we're going to divvy up those total costs on a per batch level. Customer sustaining costs are costs to support individual customers regardless of the number of units or batches. Right? What are we talking about here? For example, we need to satisfy the relationships with these customers by sending out outside salespeople to visit with our customers, take the purchasing agents or owners out to dinner, take them out to lunch, those kinds of things. Alright, so those are an example of a customer sustaining cost. What's another one? Maybe we have product that we want it displayed in a certain type of display in their facility or their store. Okay, so if we are providing that display at the customer site, then that's another example of customer sustaining cost. And again, we can tally up these total customer sustaining costs, and then based on what we're having to provide in regards to customer sustaining, we can multiply out how many of those units of display did we have to provide each customer, or how many times during the period did we have to go visit that customer. Think of the fact that there are companies out there, people, that have to put their outside salespeople on planes and send them across the country, or send them out of the country and having them travel globally. Alright, so some of these customer sustaining costs can be astronomical. The fourth one is distribution channel cost, and these are costs related to the distribution channel rather than to each unit or customer. Alright, so for example, we might have a wholesale distribution manager's salary and even a retail distribution manager's salary. Alright, so these are things that we have to cover in order to do what it is we do, and we're going to batch these together as a whole and consider them distribution channel cost. And then our fifth one is division sustaining cost. And these are costs that cannot be traced to a product, customer, or even a distribution channel. Alright, so this is larger, this is more macro. An example of this would be a division manager's salary. Alright, to understand how this works, let's now look through the pro value division from the textbook. You guys might want to print out these slides. I have gone in and made some adjustments and added some slides in, so make sure that you take a look at these or turn to the pages in your textbook that correspond with the slides that you're about to see. Alright, so we're giving the information from our period where we have broken down our marketing, distribution, and customer service activities, their cost, and the cost driver information for the year of 2013. Alright, so we can use this to help us with our customer cost hierarchy, where we can categorize our costs related to the customers into these different cost pools on the basis of their different types of cost drivers or cost allocation bases, the differing degrees of difficulty, and the cause and effect or benefits received relationships. Alright, so what we have here are some of our costs broken down by the quantity of the cost drivers that were needed during the period, and we can calculate a per unit. Alright, so here we have sales orders. Marketing and administration includes $6.75 million in relation to processing of the sales orders. There were 6,000 sales orders placed during the period. We can take $6,750,000 and divide it by 6,000 to give us $1,125 per sales order. Now this is an example of customer batch level cost. Okay, so we've got a sales order. That sales order is going to have different kinds of line items on it. And per sales order, we're going to have a processing cost of $1,125 that we're incurring. Customer visits. Again, marketing and administration related costs to the tune of $4.2 million. This is related to our visits to our customers, and we had 750 of those visits. 4.2 million divided by 750 means for each time we visited a customer during the period, we are showing an average cost of $5,600 per visit. Alright, so we're going to be tracking these 750 visits. To what customer did we go to? Alright, this is an example of a customer sustaining cost, like we mentioned earlier. We've got wholesale channel marketing and business sales channel marketing. These are distribution channel costs. These are some of those examples of ones that we're not tracing directly to our customers. Here's another one that isn't getting traced directly, one of those division sustaining costs. We've got the division administration cost of 1.9. If we go down further and look in the distribution portion of our operating expenses, we have got product handling. And here, handling can be very much related to our number of cubic feet moved of our product. We know the sizes of boxes, etc., and we can break this kind of information down. So we had $4.5 million related to product handling, and based on what all we moved during the period, we calculated 300,000 cubic feet were moved. We can take the $4.5 million of cost and divide it by cubic feet and get $15 per cubic foot. Alright, so we're going to be measuring the number of cubic feet of product by customer and using this $15 to help us calculate what it cost us in distribution regarding product handling. We had regular shipments that cost us $3.75 million for those delivery costs. There were 3,000 regular shipments. If you take the $3.75 million and divide it by 3,000 shipments, you get $1,250 per shipment. Again, we're going to keep up with the number of shipments per customer. And then rush shipments. Somebody's in an emergency situation. They need it yesterday. Rent a van, put it on the airplane, tell a person in your warehouse to drop what they're doing and go get a delivery truck and put it in there and rush it straight to them. Those kinds of things do occur in industry. $750,000 incurred just for rush shipments. 750,000 divided by 150, a measly 150, equals $5,000 on average per rush shipment. Look at the regular shipment cost incurred versus the rush shipment cost incurred. don't you think it's only fair that we find a way to make sure that the customer who needs all these rush shipments pays his fair share? Okay, maybe how we're currently doing it does not do it that way. Alright, so this is another reason why companies really need to gather their data and use it to analyze their results. Alright, these were examples of the customer output unit level cost. Alright, so this is based on the product handling per cubic foot, and then per batch level, okay, per shipment. Those are one shipment. It could have several orders in there, but it's like a batch, okay? So one group of stuff was delivered to a customer. So we're doing that as a batch level cost. And customer service. We incurred $3.6 million in costs and expenses related to customer service. Well, we are just going to use the number of units shipped as our driver. 150,000 units were shipped during the period. That means $24 per unit shipped. And again, this is an output unit level. So let's now take this information and couple it with the actual data regarding just 4 of the customers. Again, we're still looking at the A, B, G, and J customers, and here is the cost drivers being counted or totaled per customer. Okay, so we needed to know the number of sales orders per customer. 1,200 for A, 1,000 for B, 600 for G, and 300 for J. The number of customer visits per customer. 150 trips to A, 100 trips to B, 50 trips to G, and 25 to J. For product handling, part of our distribution, the number of cubic feet moved. We would know how many units of each type of product that we sold to them, and we would know the cubic feet per each one of those units, and we could come up with a total number of cubic feet moved. We could literally calculate it, but it's already been done for us. We have 60,000, 50,000, 10,000, and 8,000. The number of regular shipments can be totaled up. Over the period, we had 600 shipments to A, 400 shipments to B, 300 shipments to G, and 120 to J. Rush shipments, we had 25 of those to A, 5 to B, 20 to G, and only 3 to J. Alright, so something's going on here with A and G. They've got a lot of rush shipments. And we recall those were pretty darn expensive, right? And then regarding our customer service, we said we were going to use number of units shipped. Alright, so in other words, we're kind of spreading that more evenly based on the number of units the customer actually bought us. Alright, so based on the number of units each one bought, A bought 30,000, B bought 25,000, G bought 5,000 units, and J bought 4,000 units. That information was given to us originally. Alright, we can take this information and then break it into a customer profitability analysis and break it out by customer to see what's going on. Alright, so now that we've identified the activities that drive cost and determined the usage for those activities for our 4 select customers from a great many number of customers, we can now calculate profitability by customer. Let's take a look at what our results are. Alright, so notice here we've got Company A, Company B, Company G, and Company J. These are our customers. These are 4 of our wholesaler customers. Revenues at list price. How many units did they buy times the list price? The list price was the $1,100 per unit. Excuse me. We gave them discounts. X number of dollars off per unit. Alright, we can take that dollar of discount per unit and multiply that times the number of units they bought and get the price discount. So this is what they're not paying us. Okay? So we need to subtract that number in order to get the actual revenues. What's another way of doing that, you guys? What is the discounted price per unit times the number of units sold? Put that here in the revenues line, which is their actual revenues, and then calculate the difference between the revenues at list price and the actual revenues, and that's what would give you the discount line. Again, cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold has nothing to do with the customer that it's going to. The cost of goods sold is the cost of goods sold. These are identical units. Based on the information given in the book, I believe it was $680 per unit for cost of goods sold times the number of units we sold the customers. So go back to your data set. For customer A, we sold them a total of 30,000 units. 30,000 units times 680 would give us 20,400,000. For customer B, we sold them 25,000 units. 25,000 units at 680 each gives us cost of goods sold of 17 million, etc., etc. We can then go and calculate the gross margin per customer. Revenues per customer minus cost of goods sold per customer equals gross margin. Easy peasy. Principles of Accounting 1 stuff. Now we're going to get down in here to breaking out our customer level operating cost. Alright, so sales orders. On our sales orders, again, if we were to go back and look at this table right here, customer A had 1,200 sales orders. Customer B had 1,000. Customer G had 600. Customer J had 300. And we calculated a per sales order of $1,125 per unit. Okay, so $1,125 per sales order times the number of sales order per customer is what goes on this line. So sales orders right here. What did we have per sales order times the number of sales orders by customer? So 1.35 million goes to customer A, 1.125 goes to customer B, 675 goes to G, 337,500 goes to J of our total cost related to processing sales orders. Customer visits. How many customer visits did we have? We had 150, 100, 50, and 25. We also had calculated on a per visit $5,600 per visit. So $5,600 times 150 for A times 100 for B times 50 for G times 25 for J gives us customer cost on a per customer basis. Alright, so 840,000, 560, 280, and 140. Now we've got our distribution cost. Product handling. Our product handling, we said we were going to base that on the number of cubic feet moved. Again, we would say how many units did we sell, how many cubic feet per unit sold equals a total number of cubic feet that was sold to that customer. Alright, 60,000 moved for A, 50,000, moved for B, 10,000 for G, 8,000 for J. And we had calculated $15 per cubic foot. So taking that 15 per cubic foot, multiplying it out times the number of cubic feet moved per customer, we can say 900,000 in product handling for A, 750,000 for customer B, etc., etc. Regular shipments. We came up with a regular shipment price or cost of $1,250 per unit. And notice that the rush shipments was also calculated at $5,000 per rush shipment. Knowing those numbers, we can pick up the rush shipment quantities per customer and the regular shipment quantities per customer and do the math. 600 times the regular shipment cost for A and 25 times the rush shipment cost for A, and we could put those numbers here, 750,000 and 125,000. Again, regular shipments by customer, rush shipments by customer. Putting those numbers, spreading them out. Customer service, we said, basing it on the number of units that we sold to our customers. Again, our cost incurred related to customer service is $3.6 million, and we shipped 150,000 total units for the period. That equates to $24 per unit shipped, and based on the quantities that were purchased by A, B, G, and J, we can take those quantities and multiply it times 25 in order to give us the customer service per customer. Alright, what would we do next? We would total up all of the per customer cost related to marketing, distribution, customer service. If you total all these up right here, we get 4.685 for customer A, 3.56 for B, 1.7 for G, and 858.5 for J. We can then subtract those customer level operating costs from their respective gross margins to find out on a per customer basis, based on how we broke out our cost related to servicing them, what their actual customer level operating income results are. Alright, because some of these customers are more high maintenance than some of the other ones. Alright, so again, we mentioned the rush shipments. Customer A had a ton of rush shipments. $125,000 worth of rush shipments. Versus look at the most closest related to customer A would be customer B by revenues, $33 million and $27.5 million. Customer B only has $25,000 in rush shipments. One that stands out even more so than this one is to go look over here. Customer G, they only bought $5.5 million worth and incurred $100,000 worth of rush shipments. Compare that to B, and compare that to the one that's smaller than them. 4 times as many rush shipments than customer B. Look at some of the other costs here. We can really dive into these numbers. I highly recommend that you take a second, pause the video, and go and read some of the additional information in regards to breaking this down in your textbook. Go and look at pages 554, 555, and the top of 556, and think about that. This shows us a lot of information here. We can really dive into all these little different areas. So pause the video for a minute and go check out some of the additional notes there. Looking at this chart, if you were the manager, what would you do? Does anybody happen to notice that down here, customer G has a negative operating income, $350,000? So in other words, what is the point of having this customer as a customer? They are costing us money. We're not getting anything here. Alright? Is this a customer that's been buying for us for a long time? Are they headed south? Do we need to find ways to reduce some of these marketing and distribution costs that we've got here, these customer service costs? Are there things that we can do internally to turn this around and make them a profitable customer? Are they a new customer to us? Is this year 1 or year 2, and over those first couple of years our sales are gradually beginning to increase, and maybe this will turn profitable after some time? We have a lot of things that we need to think about before we just eliminate a customer in some way, shape, or form. Let's now take a look at how we can analyze this information by breaking it into a profitability profile and looking at the percentage of operating income as a total of revenues on a per customer basis. Alright, so customers are presented in order of contribution to operating income, so that any customers in a loss position are highlighted at the bottom of the analysis. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to make a chart, and this chart is going to start out with the customer with the highest level of operating income, and then we're going to show the second customer with the second most high operating income. Alright, so if we were to go back and put ours in order, customer B would be first. They've got $5.69 million in operating income. Customer A would be second because they've got $4.915 in operating income. Customer J would be third, $821,500, and then customer G would be fourth. But what we're going to show here on the example that also coordinates with what's in the text has additional customers in it. Alright? So again, here's customer B. They have the highest level of operating income of $5.69 million. Here's customer A, $4.915. And then here's some other customers, and then here's our J, and here's our G. Alright, so notice it goes from the largest amount of operating income per customer down to the lowest, noticing that once we drop below operating income at 0, we've got a negative $350, a negative $535, and a negative $700. So it goes from greatest to least in operating income. We then have here in column 2 the customer revenues. So this is their dollar amount of revenues. This is after discount. And we can then say what is our percentage of operating income as a percentage of revenues. Alright, so take the operating income for customer B and divide it by customer revenues for customer B. And it says for every dollar in revenues, we generate 21.7%. Look at customer A. For every dollar in revenues, we only generate 16.4. Keep going. Look at how the numbers change based on who the customer is. We've got anything from we lose 26.9 for every dollar generated in revenues to we have a return of 21.7 for every dollar in revenues. To put this into additional information that we can look at, we can then take and do a cumulative analysis. Now this cumulative analysis is going to take the information from this column right here. 5.69 million from customer B is our first amount of operating income. So that goes here, 5.69 million. We can take the 5.69 million and divide that by total revenue.
This 15,027,500 is the total operating income for all of the customers. And we're going to use that as our denominator.
So this operating income generated by customer B represents 38%. We can then, in a cumulative manner, take 5.69 from customer A and add it to the operating income from this second line, from this second customer. And that gives us 10.605 for cumulative operating income. Alright? When we take 10.605 and divide it by 15,027,500, we are basically stating we've got 71% of our operating income being generated based on just these two customers. We can continue doing this. We've got the cumulative amount of 10,605, add the operating income from this customer, 2,655,000, to give us 13,260. 13,260 as a percentage of our operating income for the year means 88% of our operating income for the year came from the first three customers. We can then take 13,260, add the next customer, 1.445, to give us 14,705. 14,705 as a percentage of our total operating income for the year gives us 98%. And we could continue doing this, alright? Going and moving and filling in the blocks. But what I want you guys to notice here is that once we get down here into the folks that have a negative operating income, we peaked out and then we started backing up down to 100%. Alright, so these folks right here are the ones that are definitely not working towards our advantage at this juncture. They're not contributing to our operating income. Another way of looking at this is we could take our information and put it either into a bar graph or into a well curve. Again, management likes to look at things in pictures, so we could actually spell this out for them based on the operating income that's coming from each customer. So noticing B has a large one, A has a large one, C, D, E, F, I think that's I, maybe it's J, can't hardly see it. And then the ones where, look, it's where it goes negative, G, H, and I. This visually shows us the positive operating income and the negative operating income customers. Here on the well curve, basically what happens is when it hits the customers who have a negative operating income, it starts going back down. Alright, so it peaked out for us at customer E, who is right here, and then started going down based on their negative operating income numbers. Managers must explore ways to make unprofitable customers profitable. Again, we're supplying them with data and information to help them do this. So in doing so, they should include factors other than the current profitability level, and looking at the data that we're giving them. They need to also consider things such as, what is the likelihood of us retaining the customer over the long haul? Alright, so customer retention. What is their potential for sales growth? Are they a brand new customer? They're just getting started buying from us. Do they have partner companies that can also buy from us? How many facilities do they have that could buy from us? Those kinds of things. Over the long haul, or over the long run, what is the likelihood that we can get their customer profitability to increase? Can we work with them to set up some type of system to eliminate rush shipments, to batch more number of units in orders so that we have less processing cost? What other kinds of ways can we be more proactive in servicing them, and at the same time reducing or eliminating some of those costs that we're incurring in order to provide them with the level of service that they need from us? Will there possibly be increases in overall demand from having well-known customers? Again, who are we selling to? Do they have sister companies that could buy from us, that maybe if we can get this relationship going very well, that we will be able to get those additional customers coming for our products? And then depending on what kind of customer, what kind of company they are, etc., are there things that we can learn from them? What about their distribution models? What about their operations and procedures, quality control and things like that? There are things that we can actually learn from our customers, so we should take things like that into consideration as well when we discuss how we are going to go about working with our customers but maintaining profitability at the same time.